Guys.
This topic is percentages, increments, decrements. So we are gonna explain first the concept of a whole cake. Let's pretend this is a cake and this is 100% because it's the whole cake, just 100%. But we divided it in 4 pieces. Then this is the whole, this is 100%. And if we want to calculate just 1/4 of this cake, the way to calculate it is by dividing the value of this cake over its fourth. So if we say that this cake price is 100 pesos, then what we can do is to divide 100 over 4, and the result will be 25 pesos. And 100 pesos over 4, or 1/4 of 100 pesos, the original value. There is another way in which we can calculate this, because 1/4 is the same thing as 25%. So instead of dividing 100 pesos over 4, which is 25 pesos, then what we can do is multiply 100 times 20%. So it's just 100 times 25% is the same result, 25 pesos. Okay, so let's just have this. And this is just the slice. Multiplying 100 pesos, the cost of the whole cake, times 25%, which is the same as the fourth that we were talking about a moment ago, then the result is 25 pesos. Now this is just the slice, but the other concept is an increment. What happens if we want to buy not just one whole cake, but also a 25% more? So the whole cake plus 25% more. What would be the result? Then again, what we're gonna to calculate is 100 pesos, the original value of the cake, plus and then the formula, but only for the slice. Only for the slice. So 100 pesos, the whole cake, plus the slice, which is 100 pesos times 25%. Then the result is 125 pesos. This is the result. 100 plus 25, it's 125 pesos. So the formula for the slice was just the amount, 100 pesos times the 25%, and the formula for the increment is just as you can see over here. The whole cake, 100, which is the amount, plus the calculation of the slice, the original amount times the 25%. So this is the total formula for the increment. What happens if instead of calculating an increment, we want to calculate a decrement? Then the formula is a little bit different, because we just need to subtract the slice. So it's a whole cake minus 25%. It will be just the whole minus the fourth, or in money will be 100 pesos, the whole cake, minus the slice, which is 100 times 25%, which in turn is 25 pesos. Then the result is just 75 pesos. This is the decrement formula over here.
We are working on percentages, increments, and decrements. Just to refresh our memories, the way to calculate the percentage of a value is just multiplying the amount times its percentage. In this case, what is the 16% of 1,000 pesos? It's just multiplying the 1,000 pesos times these percentages. Then this is our result, 160. The other way to calculate a percentage is a percentage out of a total. In this case, what is the percentage that January sales represent from the total sales? Then we just divide the sales from January over the total sales. So the percentage of January is 33%. Another important formula is calculating the increment of a value. In this case, the original value is 200 pesos, the price of this shirt. If you want to calculate the final price including taxes, then we should add the 16% of the taxes to the original price of the shirt. So 200 pesos plus the value or the percentage, as we just learned previously, the 16% of 100 pesos. Then the final price we need to pay to buy this shirt is the original amount plus the money of the taxes. In this case, 250 pesos times 16% is just 40 pesos added to the original 250, then the final result is paying 290 pesos. The other way is calculating a decrement. For example, when we have a discount over an article, when we are buying, for example, a TV, which is 9,500 pesos, and it has a discount of 30%. In this case, to the original price, we're gonna subtract the value of that 30% of discount, which is just the multiplication. Then the final price we need to pay is, of course, less than the original price of the TV without the discount. We have this example. This is a jewelry store, and we have the salespeople, the sales they did, and we ought to calculate the tax. It's just the 16% of the sales. So the formula will be just multiplying the sale times the 16%, which is just the sale, B13 times 16%. This is just a percentage of the sales. Now we also should calculate the 5% of the sales to get the commission or the salary for the salespeople, which is just 5% of the sales. In this case, we need just to multiply the sales times the 5%. So these two, the tax and the commission, are just a portion, a slice, a percentage of a value. In the same store now, they're asking us to calculate a different thing. So number one, we should calculate tax, the sales including tax. So the final value should be more than the original sales. We need to use the formula for the increment, which is just the amount plus the slice, or the increment, which is just the value of the sales times the 16%. This is the increment formula because it's sales including tax. We need to add the tax to the sales. They're asking us to calculate optimistic and pessimistic scenario. So for the optimistic scenario, we should consider a 10% increment in the sales. Then the formula is the original amount plus the increment, which is just the sales times the 10% of increment. And the pessimistic scenario is just subtracting the 15% that will drop in sales to the original sales. So the formula is just the sales minus the percentage of decrement, which is C13 sales times the corresponding 50% of decrement.